Hi, my name is Neil Kay, and this is the fourth in a series of short videos looking at the invention of the QWERTY keyboard, the one that most of us use on our desktop computers and laptops. This time, we'll look at how the inventor of the first commercially successful typewriter and QWERTY tried to create the perfect typewriter. But we'll find a sting in this tale in that he was eventually beaten by his own creation. Invention is a continuous process. If you invent something new, it will often spark off a race to improve or even perfect the initial invention. For example, William Hooker patented the spring-loaded mousetrap in 1870, but that just fired the starting gun for a race to find new and novel ways to liquidate cute little furry vermin. Like this one, with its inviting grand entrance and windows. Though you would really have to be hungry to stick your head in this one. While this one went for the wholesale slaughter approach. What these inventions had in common was they're all intended to be improved ways of catching and killing a mouse. But in the case of QWERTY, its inventor actually tried to catch and kill his own invention. About the same time that William Hooker was inventing automated execution for small rodents, what was to be called the typewriter was also being brought to market. Here it is, an early Remington. And as we saw in the earlier QWERTY puzzles, his keyboard became the standard for all keyboards right up to the present day. It had a peculiarity in that the type bars for typing were arranged in a circular type basket and swung upwards to hit the paper to be typed on from underneath. Sholes, the inventor, knew that if neighbouring letters on the type basket were typed in succession, then they could clash and jam the machine. So he designed it to minimise the chances of that happening. Here, blanks represent the type bars for numbers and punctuation. As we saw in the first QWERTY puzzle, Sholes used number and punctuation type bars to separate letters from each other on the type basket. But there were too many letters to do that trick in every case, so where letter pairs had to be together, he made sure that these would be letter pairs which would be rarely, if ever, typed together, like SX, XD, DC, CF, etc. on the circled part of the type basket. It was nearly, but not quite perfect. For example, AZ could be found in words like amazing, lazy, crazy, and hazy. Was Sholes pleased? In the beginning, perhaps yes, but he sold out the license to Remington for a sum that would, with hindsight, be a small fraction of what his invention and QWERTY would be worth. He watched on the sidelines as his typewriter became the standard for the industry he had helped to create. So Sholes set about fighting back against Remington and his own invention. This is one of several patents he lodged in the 1880s. The type basket has a peculiar lozenge shape, and you can see clearly how the keys on the keyboard link to the type bars in this patent. But the keyboard is incomplete. There is an X hung out stranded on the far left of the second row of the keyboard, while there's a jumble of letters and punctuation characters on the right side. These are shown more clearly in this close-up of the right-hand side. But Sholes didn't complete the picture and fill in the keyboard. He was worried not just about rivals, but especially about Remington. Remington had been threatening Sholes with lawsuits as early as 1880 if he tried to compete against his own invention. So Sholes tried to fly under the Remington radar and only patented part of what he was planning here, leaving most of the keyboard unfinished. But note the letters Z on the top line, DGK on the second line, and OUY on the third line. He continued to evade serious scrutiny from Remington through the 1880s, even when he produced this patent. Now he published a full keyboard, but this time he hides the type basket. But what is remarkable is that these two patents fit together like lock and key. X again anchors the far left of the second row of the keyboard, just as in the earlier patent, with the letters Z, DJK, and OUY anchoring the same places on the right-hand side as in the earlier patent. This split screen shows the right-hand sides of both patents. The question mark on the bottom row of the later keyboard has shifted one place. Apart from that, they're almost identical. But if the aim is to prevent jamming, as with the original QWERTY, then the placing of the letter keys and type bars are the important issue. So if we can treat the two patents as lock and key, what happens when we combine them? This sketch combines the type basket, lever connections, and keyboard from the two patents, we've used asterisks to represent numbers and punctuation marks. To make it clearer, we've used Scrabble pieces here to represent the combined type basket and keyboard. Again, we use blanks to represent the numbers and punctuation marks on this combination. As far as we know, this typewriter was never built. But supposing a typewriter had been built to the specifications in these combined patents, would Scholl's dream design have had the potential to beat his old QWERTY design, at least in terms of dealing with the jamming problem? We've seen the design principle that Scholl's used to design QWERTY, and what we can say here is that Scholl's pushed this design principle just about to the limit. First, every single number or punctuation mark plays a role as buffer between letters, but that still had to leave some letters next to each other on the type basket in two groups. The groups are circled here: X, Q, J, V, B, and G, Z, K, Y. How good was it? Had Scholl's developed a solution to the jamming problem that could not be bettered? The answer to that depends on whether any of the letter pairs that could be made out of these two clusters could also be found together in words on the written page. At first sight, it looks very positive. Tests show that it would have performed better than QWERTY in those terms. Just try finding letter pairs for yourself, but ultimately Scholl's was unlucky, and the key lies in the last two letters of unlucky, KY, that pair on the extreme right of the type basket. There are a handful of words in English like lucky, sky and rocky that contain that pair. Scholl's solution was better than QWERTY, but it still was not perfect. If Scholl's had managed to get his dream machine built, would it have mattered? Unlikely, because by then his original design had been refined by Remington, and QWERTY was well on its way to dominating the market. Once it had become the industry standard, it was to prove impossible to dislodge. Scholl's himself finished up bitter, disowning his own invention, refusing to own one, use one, or even recommend it. In his view, he'd created a monster that he could not control, and one that haunted him until his dying day. Perhaps he would have been less unhappy if he had lived long enough to find out his invention would create unparalleled workplace opportunities for women. The insert? It's Lillian Scholl's, the world's first typist, and Christopher's own daughter.